Hello, everybody. Once again, I am Lee McCracken Jr., aka Zorval Chan Listening Guru, and I'm trying this with a new mic that I bought. So hopefully this works. Yes, within the span of 24 hours, I've lost printer and a microphone. So earlier, I got a new printer, and the microphone went out completely, and I went out and got another microphone. So that's what stopped my actual showing of me creating the character today for the 31-day character creation challenge. And instead, I made a character and then did it on a video using the microphone for the webcam, which I like the webcam, the microphone with it, I don't like very much. So hopefully, this new mic will work. And I'm just looking at the time to make sure that the timer's ticking because the old mic was, before it died, it was cutting out sometime. So Mars is here. You probably could see his tail. He's not wanting to show it. He's in my lap. And basically, today I wanted to do a discussion about campaigns, meaning not just a one night play or a couple of night plays, but a long, ongoing game of the same characters going through one or more plot lines. It could all be in the same world. You could world hop, but it's kind of this as long as it's the same story with the same group of characters. And doing all these character creation, a different character every day in different systems, has got me thinking about characters that I've played in those systems and if I liked it or not, and also kind of the games that actually have had a ending, whether or not it's been good or not. There is a nice closure of games that you've actually there is a definitive ending, and it's not just stuck on a cliffhanger or something like that. Or one day you're going around and you're gaming this game, and all of a sudden, for some reason that you might not remember later, you stop playing it or game mastering it. And basically, the first two games that I've played, or I game mastered, amongst more than just myself and my brother, and maybe like one or two other people that just came in at different times, but they were more of like guests guests to the campaign than actual members of the group. But after I went to Purdue and I came back with that Adventure Quest, I started an actual campaign with Adventure Quest, and that one ended. And then I did Palladium First Edition, and I got to the end of that. And various levels of success, say that, but they did actually end. And there were other game masters who game mastered, and again, varying degrees of success they they got to an end of their game that I was playing. But then there was other ones that we started that they either just didn't take, the game master got bored, or people sometimes just move or have life things happening, so they didn't continue. So I was looking at these characters, and when I was going through, especially the one that I did for the Seventh Sea, it was like that character in the Earth Dawn. They were like, I was so close to getting where I would have been happy if it would have ended. Like in Earth Dawn, my character was a Windling weaponsmith. Yes, a Windling weaponsmith. Basically, I had a huge hammer that I could use to make armor and weapons. And one of the things that they can do is they can set up a whole thing of all types of components and items and materials. If you're used to online gaming mats, basically materials that you needed. And I worked with the game master. I didn't just want a bunch of easy materials. Like if I wanted these weapons to actually mean something. And in Earth Dawn, that's one of the really cool things is everything ends up having a meaning to the character and to the group. And one of them was like getting a certain for the leather wrap to wrap around a sword handle, that I wanted a certain leather from the hide of a monster that myself and my group participated in killing, and certain things like that, and like maybe part of the wood would be from a certain tree in a forest far away, so we'd actually have to adventure, or as we were going through adventures, sometimes it was like, I need, and I can't remember the exact term of it, but it was like physical representations of the elements. So like pure water or pure fire. I don't remember if it was pure, but it was something like that. And we found a source of the water. I think there were like nets that could collect this water, like purify it or something. And we found an area that had this, and we went down there and I collected some water there. But each step was certain collections, and we had freed a fire elemental type being, and he had given us like a year and a day, that because everything's based off of certain times, and a lot of things are a year and a day for the long range type. And basically, we rescued him, and he gave us kind of a favor. He would do a favor for us if we came back to him within a year and a day. And one of the things was that was going to be the fire that helped forge this set of this pair of swords that I was going to make. And I was, we were going through adventures, and we get there, and then all of a sudden one day one of the players just stops showing up, and that was kind of weird. And then we continued a little bit further, and then the game master had like problems, and I kind of put it on the back burner, and we went to start a new game as kind of a filler game. And when that game started, another one of the players actually made a character for that game, and then he just stopped showing up. And there is like no, because we had texted on certain games, and, oh, it's canceled, because of this, or oh, I can't make it, but I'll be there next week, and things like that. But there was nothing. It was like radio silence, and I don't know what happened to those two players to this day. And then so that core group we had just kind of wasn't there anymore. So that game never got brought back up. And then the game that we've replaced that with was a Mutants and Masterminds, which is an actual D20 system that I enjoy. So when you hear me talk about that, I don't like Pathfinder, and I don't like D&D Third or 3.5, whichever one of those you want to talk about, 3.x. I did like Mutants and Masterminds. They basically deconstructed the whole thing and kept the core D20 mechanism, but everything else was completely different. And I really enjoyed that game. And we actually had various, I want to say 2 or 3 plot lines that we went through, and we succeeded as superheroes. Kind of like in comic books, you'll have kind of a overarching plot line, and then it ends, and then you have your next one, that type of thing. And we had 2 or 3 of those, and then that one ended. And again, Game Master had liked things, and we hit at a point where it was like a cliffhanger, but it would have been just along the lines of a comic book, where you get to the end of this part, and it seems like there's going to be more, but something new never comes out. Like the comic book just stops being published. A reminiscent of a comic book that I absolutely loved, and again, D&D 4th edition. There was, I think it was IDW did Fells 5, which was, I thought, one of the best fantasy D&D trope comic books. It was great. And then right when it was kind of getting towards D&D 4th was going away, they kind of ended it at a plot line, but you still wanted it to continue, or I did. I really wanted it to continue, and it just like didn't happen. And there's also not that, when there's not a, the company or the author saying this is the end, this is where it stops, there won't be any more, and people were like, we want the next one, we want the next one. The next one never came up because of 4th edition going away and 5th edition starting. So that Mutants and Mastermind was kind of along that line. I basically wanted to compare it to the comic. aspect because it's a superhero comic. And then, so there's been various games that I almost get there. Seventh Sea was another one that we got our hook, we got drawn in, we were on an island, we were getting ready to leave the island. We made our way, got on the boat to leave, and and that was kind of our first part of the plot. And the game master and her husband had to move out of state, and that's when I was doing Torg every other week. So she was doing Seventh Sea, I was doing Torg, and I was able to bring everybody into Roll20 because I had used Roll20 before, and she wasn't quite familiar with it at the time. So that game kind of stopped, and that Seventh Sea character is another one that it's like I was right there. I was getting right to the point that I wanted to be at, and could have been happy had it ended, but now there's just that lost potential, that lost possibilities. Um, I have done it myself as a game master. I have actually failed a few times trying to get a Rifts campaign going. And one I was doing, and it seemed like it was succeeding. I had a trade off between that and Beyond the Supernatural, which is also a Palladium system, a modern horror genre system. And I had those alternating. And I would do 1 week of this and the next week of Rifts and BTS and Rifts. And there was a psychic character in both, and I had them dream about the other one. And I was going to have Rifts be the future and the BTS be the past. And it was working quite well. And then I as a game master got distracted by Nice Shiny, and so it was like, hey, I want to change the game. We we stopped that because I wanted to change the game master. A fourth edition, which I really like, um, I had two groups going at the same time within the same world. I like doing that with groups. It makes it so I only have to think about one world, and I also can have guest stars. I guess if you look at it like a TV episode or something where they have like a CSI here and a CSI there, and one character comes over. It's like, hey, come over, or two people come over, or I gave them a structured organization that they could, if they have magic items, they could donate it or put it with the main organization, and then if the other group could do it, they could swap out. Or in fourth edition, you had rituals which took the place of spells that required long casting times. Well, you could write those rituals down, and those rituals would be available for other people to write down. And that was something that went. Or you could donate money, and then if you needed funds, things like that. So I had that kind of working. I had two groups going, and then I got married, and I was able for a little while to continue it, but things happened, and my groups were very far away. Usually, my closest group is usually a 2 hour drive away. The other one, he had kids. Started, him and his wife got married, had a baby, and that brings life into it. So both of those campaigns kind of stopped. I tried later to combine them and keep going along with the plot line and the story because I really liked the Ninterra Vale and I really liked some of those adventures. A lot of them got flack, and in one, I think in a future video, I might do a how to make a game good. Like, don't take an adventure and just go, this adventure is bad. Sometimes it only takes one or two things to change and then make that adventure actually mean something. I think it was the Keep on the Shadowfell. Very, very bad reviews. And I took my group through it, and they really liked it because a few of its faults I switched around and I made it more personal for the players and the characters, the PCs, the adventurers, and they got into it more and they got more invested into it. And I didn't have to change much. A lot of times you don't have to change much. Take what you know about your table, about your players, and make it your own. But that was another thing that kind of fell, and I want to kind of maybe bring some of that back in my Palladium First Edition. You've probably been hearing me, if you've watched any of my recent videos, about how I always consider it easy to take anything that you roll a d20 and you roll high, something has hit points or the equivalent, and something that when you have good AC, armor rating, whatever, is high teens to 20, and something like leather is probably around 12. If you have that core in any game, I can switch it out on the fly without too much trouble. So I want to bring some of that into the Palladium game that I'm doing, because there's plot lines, like these are Torg, but I have all of these right here, these adventure books, and sometimes I can't get to them all in Torg, so I'll bring them out. Or this third shelf down is all my old Torg, and we never got through all the adventures of old Torg. So some of those I might convert over to Torg Eternity. But those are the ones that are the ones that like have such potential that I wish they could have gone further. And there's other ones that just maybe I've created a character and never played. Like I would go visit one night and I'd spend the night making up a character, maybe play that character, and then never go back because of life and times and distance and things like that. And other ones I would go for a long time. There's Earthdawn First Edition that I was going to every week, and there was a Warhammer Second Edition that I was going to every week, and I had no idea why those stopped. I know it was probably because I stopped going and driving the 2 hours to get to the game, but I don't know why. I know I like those games. I know I would have continued with those games, but it was probably something that happened at work. I know at one point the night shift that I was working, the schedule changed. They added a new shift, and each of the shifts changed and days changed, and then we weren't working Sundays, and all of a sudden we were working Sundays for a while. So it was probably something like that, with just the time of my work started to interfere with those, and I couldn't do them any longer, or something like that probably happened. The very second, second one there, that's Ars Magica Third Edition. We got into that as Troop Play, had different game masters and stuff, and was building we got an old ruined castle, or maybe we were building it, but we were getting it all set up, and then that game kind of just fell apart. Sometimes you get a new nice book and you're like, oh, let's try this, and everybody kind of diverts their attention to and stuff. Or sometimes there's conflicts. A lot of those games, and some of them, it's like I really love the system and I love the premise, but those games, Ars Magica, 7th Sea, L5R, Vampire, all of those types that have your group, that when you build your character, the game wants you to be that stereotype, and you hate everybody else. And you don't want everybody to be the same type of mage. You don't want everybody to be the same, from the same country in L5R, same clan in L5R, same country in 7th Sea, and you have it built in that you don't like the other countries and that, or the other groups. And that sometimes, I remember in Ars Magica especially, some of our characters were getting heated in character, but sometimes then it doesn't really always flow out of character, but sometimes just sitting around and arguing in character for a night or multiple nights gets old. And I remember we had one night where we didn't even pick up the dice and roll. All we were talking about was decorating and furnishing our castle. And we were talking about chairs. I remember the only thing we agreed on was we were getting comfy chairs. Weird things that stick in your head decades later, just because of that. But there is a lot of things like that. One game I was game mastering that got so close to the end, and then it fell apart because of life, and I can't go back to it, and that's the problem. It started off, and this is what can happen. You can actually start off a group in one system and then convert the characters to a different system, even if they're not the same. I'm not, necessarily talking about a D&D to another D&D. I'm talking about like converting D&D to Ars Magica or something like that. I mean, sometimes you can do that or get close. And I was playtesting my failed game Dunamis, and the base cost system that AQ did was very close to the system that I had, and I wanted to playtest stuff. So I converted all the characters. They're very easy to convert over, but AQ is a very, very simple system that you can go in years later and just get a quick reminder, and it's based off of D&D, the D20 and the weapon damage and hit, they call them damage points, but hit points, and everything of that is similar, but mine was based off of percentage system. So the base cost translated over and it had hit points and stuff, but it was a much more complex game. And that made it so that when I didn't get to the end and things fell apart and I wanted to then go and try to just do a wrap up, I just couldn't. And it was a little too long to just wrap it up story wise and make it seem good to the players, because a lot of times there have been a couple of times where it has been the wrap up just the game master dictating, narrating what had happened, and the players were sitting there, and it's like listening to somebody read the ending of a book, and not much participation, which is bad. But on that one, since my game was more complex, it would be very difficult to get a high level character, a high experienced character to a person and say, hey, remember this character from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago? This is what you're going to be playing again. With AQ, it's a lot easier. So my decision to play test my rules and get advanced characters by and testing that out by converting characters, I would have had to convert them back, and that just seemed just like, why do it? So that's a game that probably will never have an ending, which is kind of sad, because that was a game that I think most people that played under me were liked. It was one that I think was very, very well done. So things like that. So you have the games that you just never get started, or they might last 1 or 2 sessions before either the game master doesn't like it, the players don't like it, or something happens. The ones that actually go all the way and end, and those are ones that I remember, even if they were bad endings, it's like, well, at least it ended. At least there was closure. And then those middle ones that you might have been, you're almost tasting what you want. You're almost there, and then for various reasons you don't get there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll stop this video. It should be around 25 minutes or so. So leave comments. Give examples of games that you've had that have either not gone anywhere that you made characters with, have actually ended, if you liked them or not, and what are those moments, those games that you were just getting there, and then it ended for one reason or another, and you wish you could grab that character or get back into that campaign. So once again, I am Leland Crafton Jr., aka Zorvalachan Less Than Guru. I hope the mic worked. If not, I might just scrap this whole thing. So if you're watching it, it worked. And until next time, I will catch you later.